Before we dive into the story, drop a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. And don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10 at the end. Now, let's begin. The fluorescent lights in the lobby of Sterling Tower hummed with the kind of persistence that made Kara Mitchell's headache worse. She pressed 2 fingers to her temple and checked her phone for the 14th time in 5 minutes. 2:47 p.m. Her interview was at 3 p.m. sharp, and she still didn't have the portfolio mock-ups she'd spent 3 weeks perfecting. Danny, her roommate's unreliable boyfriend, who'd volunteered to print them at his office, had promised delivery by 2:30. It was now 17 minutes past that deadline, and Kara's entire future was about to collapse because she'd trusted someone whose idea of punctuality was showing up to brunch before noon. She paced in front of the marble reception desk, her worn heels clicking against the polished floor. Sterling Tower was the kind of building that made you feel small. 60 stories of glass and steel, housing some of the most powerful companies in Chicago. Summit Architectural Group occupied floors 43 through 46, and Kara had dreamed of working there since her sophomore year of college. This interview, with the notoriously selective creative director Helen Zhao, was her shot. Her one shot. And Danny was going to ruin it. Her phone buzzed. Finally. But instead of Danny, it was a text from her younger sister Mia. "Good luck today. You're going to kill it. Remember, you're brilliant even when you don't feel like it." Kara's throat tightened. Mia was starting college in the fall, counting on Kara to help with tuition since their parents couldn't afford it. This job, with its 50% salary increase over her current position at a struggling design firm, wasn't just about Kara's career. It was about keeping promises. She texted back, "Thanks. Love you." Then immediately sent Danny another message. "Where are you? Interview in 13 minutes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "Sorry bro, got held up. On my way." 5 minutes. "Bro?" Kara muttered through clenched teeth. She wasn't his bro. She was the woman whose career he was actively destroying. The lobby doors swooshed open. Kara's head snapped up, hope flaring in her chest. But it wasn't Danny. It was a delivery guy in a navy hoodie and jeans, carrying a large, insulated bag, the kind that kept food warm. He had dark hair that needed a trim, stubble that suggested he'd skipped shaving this morning, and the distracted air of someone who had 12 more stops to make before calling it a day. Kara's hope died. Just someone's lunch order. She turned back to her phone, typing furiously. "Danny, I swear to God, if you're not here in 2 minutes." "Excuse me," a voice said behind her. Deep, slightly amused. Kara didn't turn around. "Sorry, not interested in whatever you're selling." "I'm not selling anything. I'm looking for—" "Then I can't help you. Talk to the receptionist." Kara gestured vaguely toward the desk without looking up. 2:51, 9 minutes. She could feel sweat starting to form at her hairline despite the aggressive air conditioning. "Actually, I was hoping you could—" Kara spun around, frustration spilling over. The delivery guy had stepped closer, and up close he was taller than she'd initially registered, with the kind of athletic build that came from actually using a gym membership instead of just paying for one. His eyes were a startling shade of gray-blue, the color of Lake Michigan before a storm, and he was looking at her with an expression that might have been concern if she weren't so stressed. She wanted to scream. "Look," Kara said, her voice sharp. "I don't know what you need, but I'm about to walk into the most important interview of my life without the one thing I need to not completely humiliate myself. So unless you're magically carrying a portfolio of architectural renderings in that bag, I really need you to leave me alone." His eyebrow rose. "Architectural renderings?" "Yes. Specifically, 12 mock-ups of mixed-use urban redesign concepts that were supposed to be here half an hour ago. delivered by the world's most unreliable human being. She checked her phone again. 2:52. And now I have 8 minutes to figure out how to salvage this disaster. Mixed-use urban redesign, he repeated slowly. For Summit Architectural Group? Kara finally looked at him properly, suspicion flickering through her panic. How did you know that? Lucky guess. His lips twitched. This is their building. Right. Obviously. Kara pressed her palms against her eyes. She was losing it, snapping at random delivery guys, making obvious statements. This was exactly the kind of frantic energy that would make Helen Zhao take one look at her and decide she wasn't Summit material. Her phone rang. Danny. Finally. She answered before the first ring finished. Where are you? Okay. So funny story. Danny's voice came through, painfully casual. Turns out my office printer is broken. Like, completely dead. So I'm at a FedEx, but there's a line. And you're at a FedEx? Now? Danny, my interview is in 7 minutes. I know, but listen. This lady in front of me has like 40 packages. Kara hung up. She couldn't listen to another word. Her hands were shaking. 7 minutes. She could go up there and try to explain, maybe reschedule. Except Helen Zhao didn't reschedule. Everyone knew that. The woman had a waiting list of qualified candidates who would show up prepared. Bad news? The delivery guy asked. Kara almost laughed. The worst. My portfolio isn't coming. I have 7 minutes to go up to the 43rd floor and explain why I wasted a very important person's time. She shoved her phone into her purse, defeat settling over her like a heavy coat. So, yeah, bad news. What if you didn't need the physical portfolio? Kara blinked at him. What? The renderings. Do you have digital copies? Yes, but... And you have a laptop? In my bag. But they expect printed presentation boards. It's a design firm. Aesthetics matter. Showing up with a laptop like some amateur is better than showing up with nothing. He said it matter-of-factly, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Which it was. Kara just hadn't been able to think past her panic. You go up there, you apologize for the printing mishap, you show them your work on screen. If they're worth working for, they'll look past the format and see the actual design. Kara stared at him. He was right. It wasn't ideal, but it was something. Better than walking in empty-handed and defeated. Okay, she said, taking a breath. Okay, that could work. Thank you. Really. I'm sorry I was rude. You weren't rude, you were stressed. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Suddenly, he wasn't just some random delivery guy. He was someone with a genuinely nice smile that reached his eyes and made her forget, for just a second, that her life was falling apart. Good luck with your interview. Thanks. Kara adjusted her bag, straightening her shoulders. She could do this. She'd worked too hard to let bad printing logistics destroy her chance. She turned toward the elevators, then paused. Hey, what's your name? Does it matter? He was still smiling, something playful in his expression. I guess not. But if this works, I owe you one. I'll hold you to that. Kara hurried to the elevator, pressing the button for the 43rd floor. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of the delivery guy. He'd sat down on one of the lobby's modern chairs, his bag beside him, and pulled out his phone, probably checking his next delivery. The elevator climbed. Kara opened her laptop, pulling up her files. The renderings looked good. Really good. She'd spent months on these concepts, merging sustainable design with urban aesthetics, creating spaces that felt both functional and alive. Helen Zhao would see that. Format didn't matter. The work mattered. The elevator chimed. 43rd floor. Kara stepped out into a reception area that screamed expensive taste. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was the kind of minimalist design that cost more than Kara's monthly rent. A receptionist with perfect posture and a Bluetooth earpiece looked up as Kara approached. "Kara Mitchell," Kara said, trying to sound confident. "I have a 3 p.m. interview with Helen Zhao." The receptionist checked her computer. "Ms. Zhao is running a few minutes behind. She'll be with you shortly. Please, have a seat." Kara exhaled in relief. A few minutes behind. That was something. She sat in one of the uncomfortable but aesthetically pleasing chairs and tried to calm her racing heart. At 3:07, the receptionist looked up. "Ms. Mitchell? Ms. Zhao will see you now. Conference room 2. Down the hall to your left." Kara stood, gripping her laptop. This was it. Conference room 2 was all glass walls and a long table that could seat 12. Helen Zhao stood at the far end, reviewing something on her tablet. She was in her 50s, with sharp features and silver-streaked hair pulled into a severe bun. She looked up as Kara entered. "Ms. Mitchell." "Ms. Zhao, thank you so much for this opportunity." Kara set her laptop on the table, ready to launch into her apology about the printing situation. "Before we begin," Helen said, "I should mention we have one more person joining us today." Kara's stomach dropped. One more person? "Oh?" "Our CEO. He doesn't usually sit in on junior designer interviews, but he's expressed particular interest in your portfolio." Helen's expression was unreadable. "He should be here any moment." The CEO, Owen Sterling, the 34-year-old architectural prodigy who'd taken over the firm from his father 5 years ago and turned it into one of the most innovative companies in the country. Kara had studied his work in school. His designs were brilliant, pushing boundaries while respecting context. And he was about to watch her present digital files instead of the professional presentation boards she'd promised. Perfect. Just perfect. The glass door opened behind Kara. "Sorry I'm late," a familiar voice said. "Got held up in the lobby." Kara turned. The delivery guy walked in, except he wasn't wearing the hoodie anymore. He'd changed into a crisp white shirt, the sleeves rolled to his elbows, and charcoal slacks. His hair was still slightly messy, but now it looked intentional. Artfully disheveled. And he was looking directly at her with those storm-colored eyes, his expression a mix of amusement and something else, something that made Kara's brain short-circuit. "You," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Me," he agreed, his smile widening. He extended his hand. "Owen Sterling, CEO, though you probably figured that out by now." Kara's face went hot, then cold, then hot again. She'd yelled at him, called him a delivery guy, told him to leave her alone. Oh, God. She'd told the CEO of the company she desperately wanted to work for to leave her alone. Words failed her, completely, and utterly failed her. Helen was watching with the kind of interest usually reserved for car accidents. Owen was still holding out his hand, waiting. Kara forced herself to shake it. His grip was firm. Warm. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Why would you?" Owen's tone was casual, like they were discussing the weather. "I wasn't exactly dressed for the office, and you were dealing with a crisis. Still, I was rude. You were honest. There's a difference." He pulled out a chair, gesturing for her to sit. "Please, show us what you've got. Helen says your portfolio is exceptional." Kara sat, her hands trembling slightly as she opened her laptop. This was surreal, completely surreal. The CEO she'd admired from afar was the same person she'd dismissed in the lobby. And now he was sitting across from her, looking genuinely interested in her work, like she hadn't just committed career suicide. She pulled up the first rendering. A mixed-use complex that transformed an abandoned warehouse district into a community hub with affordable housing, green space, and local business integration. "I know these were supposed to be printed," Kara began, her voice steadier than she felt. My printer, actually. Not my printer. Someone else's printer. It's a long story. But the work is here. Everything I wanted to show you. Helen leaned forward, studying the screen. Walk us through your concept. And Kara did. Once she started talking about her designs, the panic receded. This was her element. Creating spaces that served people, not just profit. Blending form and function. Respecting history while embracing innovation. She moved through each rendering, explaining her choices, why she'd positioned the residential units to maximize natural light. How she'd incorporated existing architectural elements instead of demolishing them. The way public spaces encouraged community interaction. Helen asked sharp questions. Kara answered them. Owen remained quiet, his eyes moving between the screen and Kara's face, his expression thoughtful. When she finished the last rendering, silence filled the room. Kara's heart hammered. She couldn't read their faces. Finally, Helen spoke. This is some of the most thoughtful urban design I've seen from a junior candidate. Your understanding of spatial dynamics is sophisticated. Your integration of sustainability isn't superficial. It's embedded in every decision. She paused. I'm impressed. Kara felt lightheaded. Thank you. That means more than you know. Helen glanced at Owen. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then Helen stood. I'll leave you two to discuss the next steps. She nodded at Kara. It was a pleasure, Ms. Mitchell. And then she was gone, leaving Kara alone with Owen Sterling. Kara's mouth went dry. Owen leaned back in his chair, studying her. So, how's your stress level now compared to the lobby? Honestly, still pretty high. Kara closed her laptop. I can't believe I yelled at you. You didn't yell. You were firm. There's a difference. I told you to leave me alone. You were focused on solving a problem. I respect that. Owen stood, walking to the windows. The city stretched out below, all steel and glass and possibility. You know what I liked about our conversation downstairs? You liked something about it. He turned, his expression serious. You didn't know who I was. So you treated me like a regular person. No performance, no trying to impress me. Just honest stress and genuine gratitude when I made a suggestion. He crossed his arms. In this industry, people spend a lot of energy managing appearances. It's exhausting. Kara wasn't sure what to say to that. Owen Sterling, the CEO everyone talked about like he was some kind of architectural deity, was standing here, telling her he was tired of people treating him like one. For what it's worth, Kara said carefully, your work speaks for itself. People admire you because you're brilliant, not just because of your name. Something flickered across his face. You think I'm brilliant? I think your designs are brilliant. The Riverside Complex project. The way you transformed that industrial site into public space while preserving the structural history, that was genius. Owen's smile was different now. Smaller. More genuine. Thank you. That project was important to me. It shows. Kara found herself relaxing, just slightly. Good work always shows. They stood there for a moment, the silence comfortable in a way Kara hadn't expected. Then Owen moved back to the table, picking up a folder she hadn't noticed before. We'd like to offer you a position, he said. Junior designer, with potential for advancement based on performance. The salary is competitive, benefits are comprehensive, and you'd be working directly with senior designers on active projects. He handed her the folder. Details are in here. Take some time to review. If you're interested, we can discuss start dates. Kara took the folder, her hand still trembling slightly. A job offer. An actual job offer from Summit Architectural Group. I thank you. This is incredible. You earned it. Your work is exactly what we're looking for. Owen headed toward the door, then paused. And Kara? She looked up. Next time you need something printed, use our office. We have excellent printers, and our delivery guy is much more reliable." He left before she could respond, his quiet laugh echoing in the hallway. Kara stood alone in the conference room, clutching the folder, and felt something unexpected bloom in her chest. Not just relief, not just excitement about the job. It was the strange, unsettling feeling that Owen Sterling, billionaire CEO, wasn't quite who she'd expected, and that maybe, just maybe, their story wasn't finished yet. Kara's roommate Jenna was convinced the entire thing was fate. "You yelled at your future boss," Jenna said for the 5th time that evening, sprawled across their threadbare couch with a glass of cheap wine. "And he still gave you the job. That's a meet cute if I've ever heard one." "It's not a meet cute. It's a professional nightmare that somehow worked out." Kara was sitting at their tiny kitchen table, the job offer spread in front of her. The salary number made her dizzy every time she looked at it. Nearly $60,000 a year, with benefits, and a stipulation that Summit would contribute to continuing education if she wanted to pursue additional certifications. "He totally likes you," Jenna continued, ignoring Kara's protest. Why else would the CEO sit in on a junior designer interview? Because Helen Zhao told him to? Because he was curious? Because he had nothing better to do that afternoon? Kara took a sip of her own wine, trying to ignore the small voice in her head that wondered the same thing. "Not everything is a romantic comedy, Jen," says the woman whose life just became a romantic comedy. Jenna pointed her glass accusingly. Mistaken identity? Check. Powerful businessman? Check. Beautiful but down on her luck heroine? I'm not down on my luck. I'm employed, or I will be once I sign this. Employed by the hot CEO you verbally assaulted in a lobby. Kara buried her face in her hands. Why did you have to phrase it like that? Because it's amazing. Do you know how boring my meet cute with Danny was? We swiped right on an app. That's it. No drama, no mistaken identity. Just two people who thought each other looked acceptable in filtered photos. And look how well that's working out. Kara immediately regretted the words. Jenna's relationship with Danny was complicated, which was a polite way of saying Danny was unreliable, and Jenna refused to admit it. But Jenna just laughed. Exactly my point. Boring meet-cutes lead to boring relationships. Dramatic meet-cutes lead to epic love stories. Or harassment lawsuits. Not if it's mutual. Kara stood, carrying her wine to the window. Their apartment overlooked a busy street in Wicker Park, the kind of neighborhood that was being slowly gentrified, block by block. They'd lived here for 3 years, ever since Kara graduated. It was cramped, and the heating was unreliable, and sometimes they heard their neighbors' arguments through the thin walls. But it was home. And with this new salary, she could actually help Mia with tuition like she'd promised. I'm overthinking this, Kara said finally. You overthink everything. It's your brand. He probably doesn't even remember the conversation. Kara. He changed clothes and came back. He definitely remembers. That was the part that kept circling in Kara's mind. Owen had been in the lobby, dressed casually, probably coming from or going to somewhere that wasn't the office. And then he'd left, changed, and returned for her interview. Why? Her phone buzzed, a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Kara Mitchell? A woman's voice, professional and brisk. Yes. This is Stephanie Park, Owen Sterling's assistant. I'm reaching out to coordinate your onboarding process. Would you be available for a facilities tour this Thursday at 9 a.m.? Kara blinked. I haven't actually signed the offer yet. Oh, a pause. Mr. Sterling was under the impression you'd already accepted. I'm going to. I just received it this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to. Of course. Take your time. But if you'd like to see the office and meet your future colleagues before making a decision, the tour option stands. Kara glanced at Jenna, who was watching with undisguised interest. Thursday at 9 would be great. Perfect. I'll send a calendar invite. See you then, Ms. Mitchell. The line went dead. They want to give me a tour before I even sign, Kara said, staring at her phone. Jenna's grin was insufferable. He definitely likes you. Thursday morning arrived too quickly. Kara changed outfits 4 times before settling on a navy sheath dress and blazer. Professional, but not trying too hard. At least that's what she told herself as she examined her reflection for the 10th time. Sterling Tower looked different when she wasn't having a panic attack in the lobby. She noticed the architectural details this time, the way natural light filtered through the glass atrium, the geometric patterns in the marble floor, the careful balance of modern and classic elements. Stephanie Park met her at reception precisely at 9. She was in her early 30s, with perfect posture and an efficiency that suggested she could run a small country if asked. Ms. Mitchell. Welcome. Stephanie's handshake was firm. I hope you're ready for the full experience. Summit takes up 4 floors, so we'll be doing some walking. They started on the 43rd floor, open workspace with standing desks and natural light. A materials library filled with samples from sustainable suppliers, meeting rooms with glass walls and digital displays. This is where junior designers sit, Stephanie explained, gesturing to a section near the windows. You'd have your own workspace, access to all shared resources, and mentorship from senior team members. Kara tried to imagine herself here, working on real projects, learning from people like Helen Zhao. They moved to the 44th floor. More meeting rooms, a presentation space with tiered seating, a break room that looked like it belonged in a tech startup, all bright colors and comfortable furniture. We do monthly design reviews here, Stephanie said, pointing to the presentation space. Everyone presents their work, gets feedback. It's collaborative rather than competitive. Owen's very particular about maintaining that culture. He seems very hands-on, Kara ventured. He is, more than most CEOs. He actually cares about the work, not just the profit margins. Stephanie smiled, the first crack in her professional demeanor. It's why people stay. The money's good, but the creative freedom is better. The 45th floor was mostly senior designers and project managers, private offices mixed with collaborative spaces, more natural light. More of that careful balance Kara was starting to recognize as Owen's signature style. And then, the 46th floor. Executive offices, Stephanie announced as they stepped off the elevator. Accounting, legal, and Owen's office are up here. The space felt different, quieter. The decor was more refined, but not ostentatious. Large windows overlooked the lake, the water gray-blue in the morning light. They passed a corner office with Owen's name on a small placard. The door was open. Kara couldn't help glancing inside. He was there, standing at a drafting table, sketching something by hand. He'd discarded his suit jacket, his white shirt sleeves rolled up, completely absorbed in whatever he was creating. For a moment, Kara forgot to keep walking. He looked up, as if sensing her presence. Their eyes met. Kara. He straightened, setting down his pencil. Stephanie giving you the tour. Yes, it's impressive. Wait until you see the roof. Owen grabbed his jacket. Mind if I steal your tour guide, Stephanie? She's all yours. Stephanie's expression was carefully neutral, but Kara caught the flicker of interest in her eyes. I'll be at my desk if you need anything. She left, leaving Kara alone with Owen. The roof? Kara managed. Best part of the building, come on. He led her to a private elevator she hadn't noticed. It required a keycard. They rode up in silence, Kara hyper-aware of the small space and Owen's presence beside her. He smelled like coffee and something clean, maybe cedar. The elevator opened onto the roof and Kara forgot to breathe. It wasn't just a roof, it was a garden. Green space and walking paths and seating areas arranged around carefully planned sightlines. You could see the entire city from up here, the lake, the skyline, everything. "We finished this 2 years ago," Owen said, watching her reaction. "Every employee has access. It's designed for breaks, thinking, informal meetings. Sometimes the best ideas happen when you're not sitting at a desk." Kara walked to the edge, looking out at the view. "This is incredible. It's my favorite project. Not the most profitable, not the most acclaimed, but the most personal." He joined her at the railing. "I wanted to build something that reminded people why we do this work, to create spaces that make people feel alive." Kara turned to him. "You designed this. Every inch." There was pride in his voice, but also something softer. "My father thought it was a waste of money. Said clients don't care about employee amenities. But I wasn't building it for clients. I was building it for us. It's perfect," Kara said honestly. Owen smiled, that genuine smile that transformed his face. "I hoped you'd think so, because this is where I do my best work, and I wanted you to see it before you decided if Summit was right for you. You're trying to recruit me with a rooftop garden? Is it working? Maybe." Kara bit her lip, fighting her own smile. "Though I should probably know more about the actual job first. Compensation, benefits, those boring practical details. Stephanie didn't cover that?" "She covered square footage and design philosophy. Both impressive. But I have student loans and a sister starting college. I need numbers, not views." Owen's expression shifted, something like respect flickering through. "Fair. Let's sit." They settled on one of the benches. Owen pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "Salary is $58,000 to start. Standard benefits package, health, dental, vision, retirement matching. We cover continuing education up to $10,000 annually. Annual reviews with potential for promotion and raises based on merit, not tenure." He looked up. "You'd also get profit sharing once you've been here a year. Last year, that averaged out to about 8% of salary for junior designers." Kara did the mental math. With profit sharing, she'd be clearing over $60,000, more than enough to help Mia and start actually saving money. "That's generous. We pay for talent, and you're talented." "Kara." The way he said her name made something flutter in her chest. She tried to ignore it. "Why did you sit in on my interview?" The question came out before she could stop it. "Helen said you don't usually do that for junior positions." Owen was quiet for a moment, his gaze on the skyline. "Honestly? Please." "When Helen mentioned your name, I remembered reading your application, your portfolio samples. There was something about your work that felt different, more thoughtful, like you were designing for people who would actually live in these spaces, not just to win awards." He turned to face her. "And then I met you in the lobby. Stressed and honest and completely unpretentious. And I thought, that's someone I want on my team. You could tell all that from a 5-minute conversation where I was borderline rude to you. You weren't rude. You were real. In an industry full of people performing authenticity, actual authenticity is rare." Kara didn't know what to say to that. She looked down at her hands, feeling exposed in a way she hadn't expected. "I'll sign the offer," she said finally. "I'd be stupid not to." "You're not stupid. You're practical. There's a difference. You're big on differences. You said that in the lobby too. Because nuance matters. People aren't one thing. Situations aren't simple. The best designs understand that." Owen stood, offering his hand to help her up. "Welcome to Summit, Kara Mitchell." She took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. They were standing closer than she'd intended, close enough to see the flecks of darker blue in his gray eyes. "When can you start?" Owen asked, his voice quieter now. 2 weeks? I need to give notice at my current job." 2 weeks works. Stephanie will handle the paperwork." He didn't let go of her hand immediately. "And Kara?" "Yes." "I'm glad you yelled at me in that lobby." Before she could respond, he released her hand and headed back toward the elevator, leaving her standing on the rooftop, heart racing, wondering what exactly she'd just gotten herself into. Kara's last 2 weeks at Morrison Design felt like a lifetime. Her boss, Mr. Morrison, took the news of her departure with surprising grace, probably because his firm was bleeding clients, and he knew he'd have to lay people off soon anyway. Her colleagues threw a small goodbye lunch at the sandwich shop across the street, and Kara tried to feel sentimental about leaving, but mostly just felt relieved. She'd spent 4 years at Morrison, 4 years doing work that never quite satisfied her, working for clients who saw design as decoration rather than transformation. Summit represented everything Morrison wasn't: possibility, innovation, the chance to actually make something meaningful. Mia called the night before Kara's first day. "Nervous?" her sister asked, terrified. "You're going to be amazing. You know that, right?" Kara smiled, curled up on her bed in the dark. "I know I'm going to try really hard not to humiliate myself in front of my new boss, whom I've already sort of humiliated myself in front of. The hot CEO you yelled at. Why does everyone keep saying I yelled? Because it's funny." Mia's laugh was bright. "And because you never do stuff like that. You're always so careful and controlled. It's nice knowing you can lose it sometimes." "Losing it isn't exactly a life goal, Mia." "Maybe it should be. Sometimes you're so busy being responsible, you forget to actually live." The words hit harder than Mia probably intended. Kara had spent so long being the responsible one, the one who went to college on scholarship, who worked 2 jobs to help with bills, who chose practical, over-passionate every single time. When had she last done something just because she wanted to? "I'll try to be more reckless," Kara said lightly. "Start by flirting with your hot boss." "Absolutely not." "Why? He's single. You're single. You're both designers. It's perfect. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Only if it goes badly. If it goes well, it's a romantic comedy." "You've been talking to Jenna too much." Jenna's wise. They talked for another 20 minutes before saying goodbye. Kara lay in the dark afterward, staring at her ceiling, trying to calm the anxiety humming through her veins. Tomorrow, everything changed. New job, new colleagues, new opportunities. And Owen Sterling, her brilliant, confusing, slightly unpredictable boss, who looked at her like he could see past all her carefully constructed professional walls. That didn't terrify her at all. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable rain. Kara stood under the awning outside Sterling Tower at 8:45 a.m., watching water stream off the glass exterior. Her umbrella had broken on the train, leaving her slightly damp and definitely frizzy. Perfect start. She took a breath and walked inside. Stephanie met her in the lobby, somehow looking immaculate despite the weather. "First day jitters?" Stephanie asked knowingly. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been doing this job for 5 years. Come on, let's get you set up." The 43rd floor buzzed with activity. Designers hunched over drafting tables or digital displays. Conversations floated through the open space. Debates about materials and measurements and deadlines. It felt alive in a way Morrison never had. Stephanie led Kara to a workspace near the windows. Clean desk, ergonomic chair, dual monitors already set up with her login credentials. "This is you," Stephanie said. "Your team lead is Marcus Chen. He's brilliant, slightly intimidating, but fair. He'll be your main point of contact for projects. As if summoned, a man in his mid-30s approached. Slim build, black-framed glasses, carrying a tablet like it was an extension of his arm. "Kara Mitchell?" He extended his hand. "Marcus Chen, welcome to the chaos." "Thank you, happy to be here. We'll see if you still say that in a month." His smile took the edge off the words. First day's mostly orientation. It's setup, HR paperwork, facility familiarization. Tomorrow, you'll get your first assignment. What kind of project? Mixed-use residential. Client wants to redevelop a historic property without destroying its character. Tricky balance. Perfect for someone with your portfolio sensibility. Kara felt a thrill of excitement. A real project, with actual stakes. The morning passed in a blur of paperwork and introductions. Kara met at least 20 people whose names she'd definitely forgotten by lunch. The design team was diverse, passionate, exactly the kind of collaborative environment she'd hoped for. She didn't see Owen. Not during the morning orientation, not at the catered lunch for new employees, not when Marcus walked her through the design software systems they used. By 4 p.m., Kara had convinced herself she'd imagined their rooftop conversation. Owen was the CEO. He had actual important things to do besides check on one new junior designer. At 4:30, someone knocked on her cubicle partition. "How's day one?" Kara looked up. Owen leaned against the partition, jacket off, tie loosened. He looked tired, but pleased. Overwhelming, Kara admitted. But good overwhelming. That's the right kind. He glanced around the office. "Marcus treating you well?" "He's great. Little intimidating, but I think that's intentional." "Completely intentional. He says it weeds out people who can't handle pressure." Owen's lips twitched. "Though between us, he's actually a softie. His desk drawer is full of candy he shares with anyone having a bad day." Kara filed that information away. "Thanks for the tip. Insider knowledge. One of the perks of being friends with your boss." Owen's expression shifted, something more uncertain crossing his features. "I wanted to make sure you felt welcome. First dates can be rough." "I appreciate that." "Really?" Kara hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you come down to the lobby that day? The day of my interview? You were dressed casually, like you'd been somewhere else." Owen looked surprised by the question, then thoughtful. "I'd been at a construction site, one of our projects in Pilsen. I got called back for an emergency board meeting, stopped home to change, then came to the office. But I was running late, so I didn't go upstairs immediately. I was sitting in the lobby, checking emails, when you came in." "And you just decided to help a random stressed woman?" "I decided to try. You looked like you were about to either cry or punch someone. I figured offering a solution was better than either option." His smile turned sheepish. "Plus, you intrigued me. Most people wouldn't have been so openly stressed in a corporate lobby. They'd have hidden it, put on a professional mask. You were just human." "I was a mess. You were honest." There it was again. That word. Honest. Like it was something rare and valuable instead of just what happened when you were too panicked to pretend. "Well, thank you," Kara said, "for helping, and for the job, and for not holding my stress meltdown against me. Nothing to hold against you." Owen straightened, checking his watch. "I should let you finish up. But Kara?" "Yes?" "If you ever need anything, my door's open, literally. I don't believe in closed-door policies." He walked away before she could respond. Kara watched him go, feeling that strange flutter in her chest again. Jenna was wrong. This wasn't a romantic comedy. It was just a job with a boss who happened to be unexpectedly kind. She almost believed it. 3 weeks into her new job, Kara realized 2 things. First, she loved the work at Summit more than she'd loved anything professionally in years. The projects were challenging, her colleagues were brilliant, and Marcus's secret candy stash was indeed legendary. Second, Owen Sterling was making it very difficult for her to maintain professional boundaries. Not because he was inappropriate. He wasn't. He was unfailingly professional in meetings, respectful of her time, never asked for anything beyond what any boss would ask. But he also remembered things. Little things. Like how she took her coffee after she'd mentioned it once in passing, or that she was left-handed, so he'd make sure materials were positioned accordingly in meetings. Or that she was helping her sister with college expenses, so when he approved her first project bonus, he'd added a personal note. For Mia's textbooks. It was thoughtful, kind, and absolutely messing with Kara's ability to keep this strictly professional. "You need to stop overthinking," Jenna said one Friday evening as they prepped for a girls' night. Danny was out with friends, which meant Kara had Jenna's full attention for the first time in weeks. The man is clearly interested. The man is clearly my boss. Kara chopped vegetables with more force than strictly necessary. There's a power dynamic. It's inappropriate. It's only inappropriate if he's pressuring you or using his position as leverage. Is he doing that? No. Is he making you uncomfortable? No. Then what's the problem? Kara set down the knife. The problem is that I like him, Jen, and that's complicated. If things go wrong, I'm the one who loses, not him. He's the CEO. I'm the junior designer who just started. Who do you think HR protects in that scenario? Jenna's expression softened. Okay, fair point. But what if things don't go wrong? What if he's actually a decent guy who happens to like you back? Then it's still complicated. Life is complicated. That's not a reason to avoid it. Before Kara could argue, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Kara, it's Owen. His voice sounded strained. I'm sorry to call on a Friday night. I know you're off the clock. It's fine. What's wrong? I'm at the Riverside project site. We've got a structural issue that could delay the entire timeline, and I need another set of eyes. Marcus is in Wisconsin for his daughter's recital. Helen's unreachable. I know it's asking a lot. Give me the address. I'll be there in 30 minutes. She hung up before he could protest. Jenna was staring at her. So much for professional boundaries, Jenna said dryly. He needs help. That's different. Keep telling yourself that. Kara grabbed her jacket and portfolio bag. The Riverside project was one of Owen's personal designs, a transformation of an abandoned industrial complex into mixed-income housing with community spaces. She'd studied it in her research before joining Summit. It was brilliant work. If something was threatening the timeline, Owen had every reason to be stressed. She caught a rideshare to the site. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the skeletal structure of the building. Owen's car was parked out front, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Kara's annual salary. She found him on the 3rd floor, standing with a contractor and 2 engineers, all of them staring at a support beam that looked wrong. Even to Kara's inexperienced eye, the angle was off. The calculations should have accounted for this, one of the engineers was saying. I don't understand how we missed it. Because someone changed the specs without updating the structural analysis, Owen said tightly. He looked up and saw Kara. Relief flooded his features. Thank God. Kara, come look at this. She approached. Setting down her bag, Owen handed her the original plans and the revised ones. Kara studied them, comparing measurements. The load distribution changed, she said after a moment. When you adjusted the interior layout for the community space, it shifted the weight. The beam can't handle it at this angle. That's what I thought. Owen turned to the engineers. Can we reinforce it? Not without ripping out everything we've already built. Then we redesign. Owen's jaw was tight. We make the beam work, or we move the community space. I'm not compromising structural integrity. The engineers looked at each other. The contractor sighed. It's going to push the timeline back at least 3 weeks, the contractor said. And cost overruns? I'll handle the cost. Just make it safe. They spent the next 2 hours reviewing options. Kara offered suggestions, small adjustments that might salvage parts of the original design without requiring complete demo. Owen listened to each one, considering them seriously. By the time they developed a workable solution, it was nearly 9 p.m. The engineers and contractor left, promising revised plans by Monday. Owen sank onto a sawhorse, exhausted. Thank you. I couldn't have figured that out alone. Yes, you could have. Kara sat beside him, careful to maintain a professional distance. You're brilliant at this. I'm good at the creative part. The problem-solving under pressure, that's harder. He looked at her. You were good at it. Calm, methodical. I've had practice. Architecture school is basically 4 years of controlled chaos. Owen laughed, the sound echoing in the empty space. Truth. They sat in silence for a moment. Through the open walls, the Chicago skyline glittered against the darkening sky. It was beautiful. Raw and real, in a way polished buildings never were. Why did you call me? Kara asked quietly. I told you. Marcus was unavailable. Helen wasn't answering. You have 20 senior designers. Any of them could have helped. Owen was quiet for a long moment. I wanted it to be you. Kara's breath caught. Owen, I know. I know it's complicated and probably inappropriate and definitely blurring professional lines. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and something else warring in his expression. But I trust you, Kara, and I like working with you. And tonight, when everything was falling apart, you were the person I wanted in my corner. Kara didn't know what to say. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a bad idea. That workplace, romances never ended well. That she was putting her career at risk. But another part, the part that had been growing louder every day she worked at Summit, wanted to reach for him. Wanted to close the careful distance between them. Wanted to be honest about what she was feeling instead of hiding behind professionalism. I like working with you too, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Owen's eyes met hers. In the fading light, they looked darker, more intense. We should probably maintain boundaries, he said. Probably. Keep things professional. Definitely. Neither of them moved. Kara. Her phone rang, shattering the moment. Kara fumbled for it, grateful and disappointed in equal measure. Jenna's name flashed on the screen. Sorry, I should take it. Owen stood, putting distance between them. I'll drive you home. It's late. Kara answered Jenna's call while Owen gathered his things. She gave vague reassurances that, yes, she was fine. No, she didn't need a ride. Yes, she'd tell Jenna everything later. The drive to Kara's apartment was quiet, not uncomfortable, but weighted, like they'd both said too much and not enough. When Owen pulled up outside her building, Kara hesitated before getting out. Thank you for tonight, Owen said, for coming, for helping, for being someone I can count on. Anytime. Kara meant it. Despite the complications, despite the risk, she meant it. She got out of the car and walked to her building without looking back. If she had, she would have seen Owen sitting there, watching her until she was safely inside, his expression unreadable. Upstairs, Jenna pounced immediately. Tell me everything. Kara collapsed on the couch. He said he wanted it to be me. Wanted what to be you? The person he called, when he needed help. Jenna's eyes went wide. Oh my God, that's huge, Kara. It's a disaster. It's romantic. It's a professional conflict of interest. It's both. Life's messy like that. Kara pressed her hands to her face. Jenna was right. Life was messy. And Owen Sterling was the messiest, most complicated thing that had happened to Kara in years. The question was, what was she going to do about it? Monday morning brought revised structural plans and a carefully worded email from Owen to the entire design team, praising Kara's problem-solving on the Riverside project, without mentioning their evening alone on site. Professional. Appropriate. Exactly what Kara had told herself she wanted. So why did it feel disappointing? Marcus called her into his office mid-morning. Kara went, half expecting a reprimand for stepping outside her role as a junior designer. Instead, Marcus gestured for her to sit. Owen tells me you saved the Riverside project from a 3-month delay. I just offered suggestions. Suggestions that worked. That's not nothing. Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her over his glasses. How are you finding Summit so far? Be honest. It's everything I hoped it would be. The work is challenging. The team is supportive. I'm learning constantly. And Owen? Kara's heart skipped. What about him? He's a good boss, but he can be intense, perfectionistic, hard on himself and sometimes hard on others. Marcus's expression was unreadable. I want to make sure you know that if he ever crosses a line, you can come to me, or HR. Your job is protected. It took Kara a moment to realize what Marcus was really asking. He'd noticed something between her and Owen, or suspected, and he was making sure she knew she had recourse if needed. Owen's been nothing but professional, Kara said carefully. Supportive, but never inappropriate. Marcus nodded, satisfied. Good. That's what I thought, but I had to ask. He pulled up something on his computer. Now, let's talk about your next project. The conversation shifted to work, but as Kara left Marcus's office, she couldn't shake the feeling that she and Owen were being watched. Not maliciously, just carefully. Like everyone could sense the undercurrent between them and was waiting to see what would happen. She made it to lunch without seeing Owen. The design team usually ate together in the break room, a casual hour of swapping ideas and complaints about clients. Today the topic was an upcoming industry conference in New York. Summit sponsoring, one of the senior designers, Rachel, explained. Which means some of us get to go. All expenses paid. Marcus is definitely going. Helen, too. And Owen usually shows up for at least one day. Who else is on the list? Someone asked. Not finalized yet. But I heard they're bringing some junior designers this year. Good exposure, networking opportunities. Kara focused on her salad, trying not to hope she'd be selected. A conference in New York would be incredible. A chance to see cutting-edge work, meet industry leaders, maybe even present if Summit had a panel. That afternoon, an email appeared in her inbox. Subject, NYC Conference. You're invited. Kara's hands trembled as she opened it. Kara. Summit will be attending the National Architecture and Design Conference in NYC next month. Based on your work so far, particularly your contribution to the Riverside project, you've been selected as one of 3 junior designers representing the company. Trip details attached. Looking forward to it. Owen, she read it 3 times. Professional, appropriate. And somehow still making her heart race. Jenna's reaction that evening was predictable. He's taking you to New York. Summit is sending multiple people to New York. For work, not a romantic getaway. Uh-huh. And does Summit always personally email junior designers about conference invitations? Kara hesitated. Probably not. Definitely not. This is a big deal, Kara. It was a big deal. Not just because of Owen, but because this was recognition of her work, proof that she belonged at Summit, that she wasn't just the girl who got lucky with a portfolio and a dramatic lobby encounter. The next few weeks were consumed with preparation. The conference had panel discussions, portfolio reviews, evening networking events. Kara needed to be ready to represent Summit professionally. Owen seemed to be avoiding her. Or maybe she was avoiding him. Either way, their interactions were limited to group meetings and brief emails. Professional. Distant. Exactly what Kara had told herself was necessary. But she missed him. The easy conversations on the Riverside site. The way he listened when she pitched ideas. The feeling that someone actually saw her potential instead of just her inexperience. 2 days before the New York trip, Kara stayed late to finish a presentation. Most of the office had cleared out by 7 p.m. She was deep in adjusting a rendering when someone knocked on her cubicle wall. Owen stood there with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering one. "Thank you." Kara took it, surprised. "What are you still doing here?" "Could ask you the same thing." Owen pulled up a chair, sitting beside her. Not too close, but close enough that she could smell his cologne. "Working on your conference presentation?" "Trying to make it not terrible." "Can I see?" Kara hesitated, then turned her screen toward him. The presentation outlined her approach to the residential project Marcus had assigned. Sustainable materials, community integration, respecting architectural heritage while meeting modern needs. Owen studied it silently. Kara's anxiety climbed with each passing second. Finally, he spoke. "This is excellent." "Really?" "Really." He pointed to one of her slides. "This section on material sourcing is particularly strong. Most people treat sustainability as an afterthought. You've made it foundational." Relief flooded through her. "I wasn't sure if I was overthinking it." "You're not." This is the kind of thinking that changes the industry. Owen leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "Can I be honest with you? Please. I've been avoiding you." The admission hung between them. Kara's breath caught. "I noticed," she said quietly. "It's not because I don't want to work with you or talk to you. It's because I like both those things too much, and I'm trying to be professional." He met her gaze. "But I'm not sure I'm succeeding." Kara's heart hammered. "Owen, let me finish. Please." He took a breath. "When you started at Summit, I told myself I'd be your boss. Supportive, but distant. I'd give you opportunities to grow without any ulterior motives. And I meant that. Your work earned you this conference invitation. Your talent earned Marcus's respect. None of that has anything to do with how I feel about you." "How you feel about me," Kara repeated, her voice barely audible. "I like you, Kara. As a colleague, yes. But also as a person. I like your honesty and your work ethic and the way you argue with me when you think I'm wrong. I like that you're not intimidated by my name or my position. I like—" He stopped, laughing quietly. "I like a lot of things. And it's making it very difficult to maintain appropriate professional distance." Kara set down her coffee before she dropped it. "I like you too." Owen's eyes snapped to hers. "You do?" "Of course I do. You're brilliant and kind, and you actually care about creating meaningful work. You remember small details, and you make sure people feel valued. You're—" She stopped, overwhelmed by her own feelings. "You're making it very difficult to focus on just my career." They sat there, the admission floating between them. Through the windows, the city sparkled with evening lights. "We can't act on this," Owen said finally. "Not while you work for me. The power dynamic is too messy." "I know. But after you've been at Summit longer, if you still feel this way, and if I still feel this way, that's a lot of ifs." "It is. But I'd rather wait and do this right than rush and ruin everything." Kara understood the logic. She even agreed with it. But God, it was hard. Sitting this close to someone she cared about and not being able to reach for them. "How long?" she asked. 6 months, at least. By then you'll have enough experience that if we date, no one can question whether your work earned your place. 6 months. It's not that long. It felt like forever. But Kara nodded. Okay. 6 months. We keep things professional, and then we see what happens. Owen stood, putting distance between them again. I should go. Let you finish your presentation. Owen? He turned back. Thank you. For being honest. For caring enough to want to do this right. His smile was soft, sad, hopeful all at once. Thank you for being worth waiting for. He left. Kara sat alone in her cubicle, staring at her coffee, feeling like her entire world had just tilted sideways. 6 months. She could wait 6 months. Probably. The National Architecture and Design Conference took over 3 hotels and a convention center in Midtown Manhattan. Kara had never seen so many brilliant, intimidating people in one place. Every conversation seemed to involve projects she'd only read about in industry magazines. Summit's contingent arrived Wednesday evening. Owen had arranged rooms at a boutique hotel near the convention center. Kara's room was small but elegant, with a view of the street 40 floors below. The opening reception was in 2 hours. Kara unpacked, showered, and stared at her closet trying to decide what business casual networking attire actually meant. She settled on black pants and a burgundy silk blouse, professional but not trying too hard. Her hair cooperated for once, falling in soft waves. She looked like someone who belonged at this conference. She almost believed it. The reception was in a hotel ballroom that had been transformed into a showcase for architectural innovation, interactive displays, VR experiences, networking stations organized by specialty. Kara grabbed a name tag and a glass of wine and tried not to look as overwhelmed as she felt. First major conference, a woman about Kara's age appeared beside her, offering a knowing smile. I can always spot the newbies. You have that deer in headlights thing happening. Kara laughed despite herself. That obvious? Only to someone who's been there. I'm Lee Park. I work for Brennan Studios. Kara Mitchell, Summit Architectural Group. Lee's eyebrows rose. Summit. Impressive. They don't usually bring junior designers to conferences. I got lucky. Luck doesn't get you into Summit. Talent does. Lee sipped her wine. How long have you been there? About 2 months. And they're already bringing you to New York? Someone's impressed. Before Kara could respond, a voice interrupted. Kara, there you are. Owen approached with Marcus and Helen. All 3 looked perfectly at ease in this environment, like conferences were just another Tuesday. Lee Park, Owen said, recognizing her. Brennan Studios. I saw your team's presentation at last year's Sustainability Summit. Excellent work. Lee lit up. You remember that? Hard to forget. The modular housing concept was innovative. They chatted for a few minutes before Lee excused herself to network. Once she was gone, Marcus turned to Kara. First conference advice, collect business cards, but don't promise anything. People will pitch you ideas constantly. Be polite, be interested, but defer to senior team members for actual commitments. Got it. And don't drink too much, Helen added dryly. The wine is free, but hangovers at 8 a.m. panel discussions are hell. Noted. Owen had been quiet, his expression unreadable. Kara, can I borrow you for a minute? There's someone I want you to meet. Marcus and Helen exchanged glances but said nothing. Kara followed Owen through the crowd to a quieter corner where an older man in a perfectly tailored suit was studying an interactive display. Richard, Owen said, got a minute? The man turned. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes that assessed Kara immediately. Owen Sterling, still surprising me after all these years. Richard's handshake was firm. Who's this? Kara Mitchell, junior designer at Summit. Kara, This is Richard Brennan. He founded Brennan Studios. Kara's eyes widened. Richard Brennan was a legend. His firm had designed half the iconic buildings in Chicago. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Brennan. Richard, please. Mr. Brennan makes me feel ancient. He studied her with interest. Owen doesn't introduce me to junior designers. You must have impressed him. She solved a structural issue on the Riverside project that would have cost us 3 months, Owen said, in about 30 minutes. Quick thinker. I like that. Richard pulled out a business card. I'm speaking on a panel tomorrow about adaptive reuse. Come, ask questions. I'm always looking for young designers who understand that architecture is about more than ego. Kara took the card with trembling hands. Thank you. I'll be there. Richard nodded and moved on. Kara turned to Owen, speechless. Why did you do that? She finally managed. Because you deserve opportunities, and Richard respects talent more than pedigree. Owen's expression was serious. This industry is full of people who got where they are because of connections. I want you to succeed because of your skill. You're giving me connections. I'm introducing you to people who can recognize your talent. What you do with those introductions is up to you. The distinction mattered. Kara understood that. Owen wasn't handing her success. He was opening doors and trusting her to walk through them. Thank you, she said softly. Don't thank me. Just keep doing excellent work. They stood there for a moment, the noise of the reception fading into background static. Kara was acutely aware of how close Owen was standing, how easy it would be to close the distance between them. 6 months, she reminded herself. 6 months of being professional. I should network, Kara said reluctantly. You should. But Kara? Yeah? You look... He stopped, catching himself. Professional? You look very professional. It was the least smooth thing he'd ever said. Kara bit back a smile. So do you. She walked away before she could say something that would make waiting 6 months even harder. The next few days were a blur of panels, presentations, and networking events. Kara attended Richard Brennan's talk and asked a question that sparked a 15-minute discussion. She met designers from firms across the country. She swapped business cards and ideas and felt, for the first time, like she was part of something bigger than just her own career. Owen maintained professional distance. They attended the same events, but he made sure they were never alone together. Kara appreciated it and resented it in equal measure. On the final night, Summit hosted a dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking Central Park. 20 people from various firms, all carefully selected for networking potential. Kara found herself seated between Rachel from Summit's senior team and a designer from a firm in Boston. Owen was at the far end of the table. Far enough that conversation was impossible. Close enough that Kara was hyper-aware of his presence. Halfway through dinner, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're doing brilliantly. Everyone's impressed. She glanced down the table. Owen was engaged in conversation, his phone face down beside his plate. But she knew it was him. She texted back. How did you get my number? HR directory. Definitely not an abuse of power. Kara stifled a laugh. This is very unprofessional. Texting during dinner or complimenting a colleague's work. Both. Then I'll stop, after I say one more thing. What? 5 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. Kara's breath caught. He was counting. She looked up. Owen was watching her now, his expression carefully neutral, but his eyes held warmth. Promise. The unspoken acknowledgement that they were both waiting. Kara typed, "Who's counting?" "Me, every single day." She put her phone away, forcing herself to focus on the conversation around her. But inside, her heart was racing. 5 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. She could wait. She had to. The weeks after New York passed in a blur of deadlines and design reviews. Kara threw herself into work, determined to prove Owen's faith in her wasn't misplaced. The residential project she'd presented at the conference earned praise from the client. Marcus assigned her to another high-profile build. Her name started appearing in internal project reports. She was building a reputation at Summit, on her own merit. And she barely saw Owen. He was traveling more, meeting clients, attending site visits. When he was in the office, he was locked in meetings. They passed each other in hallways with professional nods. They exchanged emails about project updates. Everything was appropriate, distant, exactly what they'd agreed on. Kara hated it. "You're being ridiculous," Jenna said one evening. They were making dinner, a rare night when Danny wasn't around. "You agreed to wait. You're waiting. What's the problem?" "The problem is I miss him." Kara stabbed at vegetables. "Not just the potential romance. I miss working with him, talking to him, having someone who sees my work and pushes me to do better. So tell him that." "I can't. We're maintaining professional distance." "Professional distance doesn't mean complete silence." Jenna took the knife away before Kara murdered the vegetables. "Send him an email about work. Ask for feedback on a project. That's completely appropriate. But it's not really about work. So make it about work. You're both adults. You can have professional interactions without it turning into something else." Kara considered it. Jenna was right. They could be colleagues without crossing lines. She just had to be brave enough to try. That night, she drafted an email. "Owen, I'm working on design concepts for the Lakefront Commons project and wanted your input on material selection. I've narrowed it to 3 options, attached, but would value your perspective before presenting to Marcus. If you have time this week, I'd appreciate 15 minutes to discuss." Kara. Professional. Specific. Entirely appropriate. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Owen responded within an hour. Kara. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., my office. Bring coffee. Mine, not yours. You drink yours with too much cream. Kara smiled despite herself. He remembered how she took her coffee. The next afternoon, she showed up at Owen's office with 2 cups. His was black with 1 sugar. Hers was, admittedly, mostly cream with some coffee added. Owen's office was smaller than she'd expected for a CEO. Large windows overlooking the lake, a drafting table covered in sketches, bookshelves filled with architecture texts and model buildings. It felt personal. Lived in. "Come in." Owen stood from behind his desk. He looked tired, but his smile was genuine. "Let's see what you got." Kara spread her material samples on the drafting table. Reclaimed wood, sustainable concrete alternatives, recycled metal finishes. She explained her reasoning for each. Owen listened, asking questions, pushing her to justify choices, not aggressively, thoughtfully, the way he had at the Riverside site. "This one," he said finally, pointing to the reclaimed wood. "It's riskier cost-wise, but it tells the right story. Lakefront Commons is about community renewal. Using materials with history reinforces that narrative." That's what I thought. But I wasn't sure if it was too sentimental. Architecture should be sentimental, not nostalgic, but emotional. Buildings are for people. If they don't make people feel something, we've failed. Kara understood exactly what he meant. This was why she loved working at Summit. This belief that design mattered beyond aesthetics. "Thank you," she said. "This helps. Anytime." Owen leaned against the drafting table. "How have you been?" "Really. Not the professional update version." Kara hesitated. "Honestly, I miss working with you, not just on projects. I miss the conversations, the way you challenge my thinking." "I miss that too." Owen's voice was quiet. But I meant what I said about doing this right. When we're together, I don't want there to be any question about your place at Summit. I know, and I agree. It's harder than I expected. 4 months, 2 weeks, Owen said. Kara laughed despite herself. You're still counting? Every day. They looked at each other. The office felt smaller suddenly, more intimate. We should probably maintain distance, Kara said. Probably. Neither of them moved. Owen's phone rang, breaking the moment. He glanced at it and sighed. I have to take this. Board member. Of course, I'll get out of your way. Kara? She turned at the door. Don't be a stranger. I mean it. If you need feedback, input, anything, my doors really is open. Okay, she smiled. Thanks, Owen. Walking back to her desk, Kara felt lighter. They could do this. Work together. Support each other. Maintain boundaries while they waited. 4 months and 2 weeks. She could make it. Spring turned to summer. Kara's projects continued succeeding. She got her first solo client pitch and landed the job. Marcus started including her in senior design meetings. Her salary review came with a raise that made her cry in the bathroom because she could finally pay off half her student loans, and she and Owen found their rhythm. They worked together on projects, maintaining professionalism. They had coffee meetings about designs. They emailed about materials and deadlines and client feedback. They counted down the weeks. 3 months left. Then 2. Then 6 weeks. The office gossip mill had definitely noticed. Kara overheard whispered speculation in the break room, but Marcus never said anything. Helen treated her exactly the same, and Kara's work continued speaking for itself. 2 weeks before their 6-month deadline, Owen called her into his office. Close the door, he said. Kara's stomach flipped. Owen never asked her to close the door. She sat across from his desk. Is something wrong? No, the opposite. He slid a folder across to her. I'm promoting you. Senior designer. Significant raise. Your own office. Leadership role on the Riverside Phase 2 project. Kara opened the folder, scanning the documents. The salary number made her dizzy. Owen, I've only been here 6 months. 7, actually. And you've earned this. Your work has been exceptional. Clients specifically request you. Marcus says you're already operating at senior level. He leaned back. This isn't charity. It's recognition. People will think, let them think what they want. Anyone who looks at your work knows you deserve this. Kara stared at the paperwork. Senior designer. A title people spent years working toward, and she was getting it after 7 months. There's something else, Owen said, his voice softer now. This promotion means you're no longer junior staff. The power dynamic that concerned us, it's not eliminated, but it's significantly reduced. I'm still CEO, you're still an employee, but you're senior enough now that our relationship wouldn't automatically raise ethics concerns. Kara's heart began racing. Are you saying? I'm saying that in 2 weeks, we'll hit 6 months. And if you're still interested, and if I'm still interested, we could consider exploring this. Whatever this is. He met her gaze. But I want you to think about it seriously, because once we cross that line, everything changes. And I need to know you're sure. Kara had never been more sure of anything in her life. I'm sure, she said. You haven't thought about it. I've been thinking about it for 7 months, since the day I yelled at you in a lobby and you helped me anyway, since you gave me a job and treated me like I deserved to be here. Since every coffee meeting and project discussion and moment when I had to maintain professional distance while wanting to just. She stopped herself. Owen's eyes were intense. Wanting to just what? This, Kara said, and stood up and walked around his desk and kissed him. For half a second, Owen froze. Then his hands came up to frame her face, and he kissed her back, deep and thorough, and full of 7 months of waiting. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "That was extremely unprofessional," he said. "Fire me." He laughed, the sound reverberating through her. "Never. You're too valuable to this company." "Just the company? To me? You're too valuable to me." They kissed again, slower this time, savoring it. 7 months of tension finally releasing. Eventually, reality intruded. They were in Owen's office, with glass walls, in the middle of the workday. "We should probably," Kara gestured vaguely, "be professional." "Yes." But Owen didn't let go of her. "Though I'm not sure how I'm supposed to focus on work now. We've been doing it for 7 months. What's a few more hours?" "An eternity." Kara smiled and made herself step back. "I should go. Review this promotion paperwork. Sign it. Then we'll celebrate. Properly." "Is that a professional offer or a personal one?" "Both." Kara walked to the door, then looked back. Owen was watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. 4 p.m., she said. "I'm done for the day at 4. I'll meet you in the lobby." It was the longest afternoon of Kara's life. She tried to work, but every minute dragged. Finally, at 3:58 p.m., she shut down her computer and headed to the elevators. Owen was already in the lobby, wearing a jacket and carrying his bag. He'd changed from his usual suit into dark jeans and a button-down. He looked younger, more relaxed. "Ready?" he asked. "Where are we going?" "I have an idea. Trust me?" Kara didn't hesitate. "Yes." They walked out of Sterling Tower together, not quite holding hands, but close enough that their arms brushed. The evening stretched ahead, full of possibility. For 7 months, they'd been professional, careful, waiting. Now, finally, they were free to just be themselves. And Kara couldn't wait to see what happened next. Rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments below and let us know what you thought. Thanks for watching.